Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Outskirts Overland. Today we've got a really cool show. I've got a couple people on with me, and I'll introduce them here shortly. I'm gonna get through my house cleaning stuff here first. If anybody from Go Fast Campers ever listens to this, if anybody from that does listen to it wants to reach out to Go Fast Campers and tell them I'm pimping their product, I would love to work with them. Please, please, please help me out so I can help them out, so we can help each other out and get rid of this rooftop tent in my background. Secondly, Toyota Trucks of Arkansas. It's a Facebook group that I have a couple friends that are curators of. It's a great Facebook group. If you're in the Midwest area, you drive a Toyota and you like cool people, go ahead and go over there on Facebook and check it out. So, without further ado, today I have a couple people on here. I have Jambo Bobbo, who's with the Toyota Jamboree, which will be here in a couple of weeks. And I have Jay with Razorback Land Cruisers and the Razorback Ramble, and it'll be in June. So, two events right up on coming up on us. So, first things first, I'm going to introduce Jambo Bobbo here and let him talk about the event, kind of what's going on with the event, and then following that, I'll let Jay kind of dive into what he's got going on. So, Bobbo, what's up?
I am a guy who sits down at Jambo and watches people have fun. Is that authentic? Am I nailing this? I feel like I'm nailing this. No, this event, I don't know if anyone is even aware of it, is a big event, and it happens in East Texas at Gilmer. Barnwell Mountain Recreational Area is where we actually host the event. We are home of the largest Toyota off-road event in the country, the Toyota Jamboree. So this is our 18th year doing it. This year is May 2nd to the 5th. Next year is the first week of May as well, and hopefully the following year is the same thing. This is how we do it. It's if you go any later, it's too hot for Texas. If you're any earlier, you got to worry about dodging big windy circle things. Tornadors, I think is as they called it.
Yeah, and that's definitely not something you want to go through an event full of, vendors and stands and vehicles
trucks and canopies,
exactly.
And knocking on wood that isn't going to happen.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, you don't want that to happen, right? So as your event's coming closer, are sales for tickets still open for that event?
So we actually allow people to walk up and purchase tickets if they want. Ticket sales are still open, toyotajamboree.com. If you're a vendor, you might not make it on the shirts anymore, but that still is open as vendors versus sponsors. Sponsors, we've kind of locked them all in. Can't really put another logo on a shirt because we've already had to order them. The event is literally 10 days away. I'm stressed.
Right. That's what I was like when you just told me that. I was like, oh man, that's like tomorrow. Like that's tomorrow. Like that's coming.
I leave Saturday. I think I may have to take leave Friday, but I leave Saturday to get to Texas. I'm actually in Alabama.
And just for basic stuff, the people that'll listen to this later, and they're not familiar with the Toyota Jamboree. You say it's the largest Toyota event, off-road Toyota enthusiast event. So what are we talking? How many rigs? How many sponsors? How many vendors? What's going on there?
So we get around 40 different vendors or sponsors that show up. We have last year, I kid you not, Chris did a count. This was the funniest thing ever. He did a count and it said 777 trucks. And he messaged me and he goes, I'm not recounting. And I was like, well, you may have messed up because I don't care. That is the coolest number. I want to post that we have 777 trucks. And I was like, do it. Right. So then later he recounted and I think we had 810.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that may have been cooler to say.
That's not a cool number.
But it's not a cool number, but it may have been cooler to say we broke 800. And then he goes, I'll have to recount again because I keep adding, because he has different charts for everything. We use Airtable to do a lot of our setup, but sponsors are on one, vendors are on another. Some of the vendors get a truck. Some of the sponsors bring their truck. So trying to tally them all up becomes silly. But that's what allows us to equate to the largest is the number of trucks. We have about 1,500 people that show up. I think last year's raffle was in a value of over $60,000. And this year we're doing a volunteer raffle, not just the general raffle, because we've realized even though we give shirts and tickets away to some of our volunteers, the problem is just because you have a raffle ticket doesn't mean you're going to win anything. That's just the reality of that, right?
Well, right.
So we're doing a volunteer raffle for our volunteers as well. so that we can give back to everyone who's doing all this hard work for us. Because keep in mind, this is a volunteer run event. I don't get paid. Uh, Chris stares at me all the time when I ask to get paid. Like, what are you, stupid? Nobody else gets paid. So I think the uh, worst part about it is we'll spend all this time working up to it, and then as soon as we're done, we're like, "Can you at least buy us dinner?" And
Yeah, right.
Chris does do that.
Yeah.
He'll buy you dinner before he, takes it over, right?
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna hop to Jay real quick. So Jay is with the Razorback Ramble. It's an Arkansas-based event, and I'm gonna let Jay take it from here. What is your event? Where's it at?
Yeah, so the Razorback Ramble is actually held from May 30th through June 2nd. This is the 25th year that we're running it, and so this is actually the oldest off-roading event in general, just in the state of Arkansas. The Razorback Land Cruiser Club is actually the oldest club in the state of Arkansas as well. And so, we're actually both, same Toyota Jamboree and the Ramble, we're both TLCA sanctioned events, which is, I guess you could call the mothership, which is the Toyota Land Cruiser Association. And so they actually sit down with events and kind of guide us and make sure that we don't step on each other's toes too much as far as dates go. And, if they are pretty close together, they make sure that they're on opposite ends of the country. So the Ramble is actually held down in Hot Springs, over at Hot Springs Off-Road Park. Jambo Bobby and I were just down there, 2 weeks ago, down there for the Eclipse event. Had a good old time. We did a talk show down there about it. But it's pretty exciting stuff. Doing all this work leading up to it makes me appreciate a lot of what Bobby was saying at the Eclipse about, all the event work leading up to it, all the emails, talking, putting all the puzzle pieces together ahead of time.
Right, and then kind of the same questions as far as tickets still available. Where can you get tickets?
Yeah, so ticket sales are still available. We do allow walk-ups. Same kind of things, though. After a certain point, we can't really guarantee that you're going to get, the shirts in on it. So we close registration here in 6 more days on the 30th. And then after that, people are still welcome to buy. We should have a couple extra sizes in shirts, but, it's just in no way, shape, or form a guarantee. You can get your tickets over at RazorbackLandCruisers.com, and there should be a tab up top that says the Ramble on it.
Perfect. So as we look at these events, one thing I want to talk about that I think is a big part of, this is Outskirts Overland. Overland's a big deal now, but this is for Toyota off-road enthusiasts overall. And one thing that I like about both of these events is they're not expos. So I think that's one thing I want to make sure that everybody that listens to this, I don't want to be partnering with expos, okay? Nothing against it, just not my jam. I'm about it, So as I bring these guys on, I want you guys to talk about, what community comes. This isn't an event that off-road enthusiasts come to, with tire shine. So let's talk about it. So tell me, first off, let's start with Jambo Bobby. What's out there for your enthusiast that comes to your event that they can take part in?
So you say you're not a fan of expos. I wouldn't say we're an expo by any means, but at the same time, we do have a vendor section, right? And that vendor area allows for a lot of learning about new systems, seeing what's out there to purchase, right? And our vendors also host a lot of our events, like the Stampede, which is a timed race event, one at a time, not a group race, right? And I hate to call it a race because that signifies that we've sanctioned something and we've actually got it organized and really well done. But everybody really does pride themselves in this event. We were joking about this at the other podcast where we talked about how there is no money in any of our events, the Stampede, Rock Crawl, Blind Man's Bluff. There's no money to win. Actually, it's just a trophy to win. And yet we still have people that will be like, no. He's got this size tires. You need to make sure he's in this class. You got this. And it's so funny how much pride these people have in this. And it allows them to really build up and make this an event that was never about the events. It was about the off-roading. But it's just turned into something bigger and bigger organically. And I think that's why Jambo is the way it is nothing feels forced. It's kind of like, hey, Thursday, we sat around joking about what to do on Thursday because Blind Man's is on Friday. The group photos on Friday. Saturday is the Stampede and the Rock Crawl. So what do we do Thursday? And we always laugh like nobody shows up Thursday except for people who want to make sure they got a good place to camp. But last year we had, I think, 2/3 of the people show up on Thursday. And it was just like 3 or 4 hours straight of people coming into the park, and we all looked at each other like, we don't have anything to do. What do we do for Thursday? And we had already talked about doing like a pups and truck meetup, come check out each other's builds and bring your dogs and we can hang out and talk and I'll give the dogs treats and I'll pet your dogs. I love dogs. I'm a dog person, right? So we did that. And then afterwards we were like, would you guys like to see this again next year? And everyone's like, because we also let our photographers go around and take photos of the dogs and everyone's like, we want more dogs and trucks. And we're like, that has nothing to do with Toyota and off-road. You know what? We'll give it to you. So this year we're doing Thursday night pups, cups, and trucks. We may have some cups with some beverages and some trucks hanging out so that everyone can rate them. And we're going to have cups next to the truck so you can put little tickets in and say what truck you do or don't like. And then bring your pups around because we have Barks and Rec is a business that's bringing out some really cool like off-road style dog stuff. I kid you not. I'll have to in a minute here. I'll have to step away and grab some. I didn't even think about promoting this because I had no.
Yeah, you're good.
It's really cool. They have a dog bowl with looks like a tire. I'm like, and if you have a dog and you need a slow feeder. About. The slow feeder insert looks like the rim. I'm like, yo, 100%. I'm sold. I bought them. I'm like, hey, here's my money. And she was like, well, you're my first order. And I was like, I don't care. I'm buying them. Just give me the stuff.
Take my money. It's hilarious. And
so go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go on.
So I was going to say is we've kind of turned in from just an off-road event where people hang out and sponsors and vendors show up to sell things to an off-road event that has a lot going on for 3 days, right? Thursday, Friday, and Saturday now. They're booked schedules. I think we're doing a movie night. I think we're calling it Wheels and Reels. We're going to play Back to the Future. That's going to be awesome. So after everything's going down, sunset, and you're like, what do I do now? We got a whole movie playing. Come park your truck and watch and check it out.
Right, yeah. Bring your camp chairs, hang out. So, yeah, that's what I was saying. When I talk expo, I'm talking going to an event in a parking lot at a convention center, just essentially a marketplace. So that's not my jam. But so Jay's got a very similar thing going where their events at an off-road park. I'm gonna let Jay take it from there too. It's definitely still it's a lot of the same because like it's Toyota Land Cruisers of America event. But I'm gonna let Jay go on and talk about the Razorback Ramble as well.
Yeah, so at the Ramble, it's pretty much all day wheeling if you want. If you don't, you can hang out at camp. Friday and Saturday night, we do have some stuff programmed for it. So I know that we've got the raffles going. That's a big one everybody wants to know about. This year, we're pushing, I haven't tallied in a bit, but we're a little over probably 25 grand by this point in raffle prizes that have rolled in over this time. Live band, we do have a like 80s tribute band coming in. I believe it's called the Dusty Rose Band, if I'm talking over my head, off my head there. And I know Toyota Jamboree is doing the 80s night, so I mean that fits the theme.
Nice.
Well, we're doing all 80s theme this year, like complete.
Oh hell yeah!
Show up
That's
in a
why
costume.
I like the pink
Friday
and the teal.
night. Yeah.
Absolutely. You need to pull out the mullets for that. I know Craig was sending out the mullet wigs.
That's awesome.
What's happening?
Yeah, perfect. That's perfect. So,
double trouble. Do them at both events, mullet all day.
Dude, I swear I'll show up in a mullet at your event if you're doing the same thing. I would love it.
Let's do it.
That's awesome. So you were just talking, Bobbo, and I'm sure this will be the same thing. I'm a big advocate of when you go to any of these events, which are more focused on, actually being in the outdoors and meeting people that are using equipment and such things. I like the pup and truck because that gives some of the newer people that are going to come to your event, knowing there's going to also be experienced people at your event, to kind of see what people are actually using. Because you can get caught up on Facebook and really be getting sold. And so it's a great time for the community to get together and kind of see what everybody's doing.
I think that was why we wanted to do that on Thursday night, is because you have like new people that show up and like, so what do I do? And then you just start getting them to introduce themselves to each other. And
Right.
and I've said this story so many times, so I'm not going to wear it real thin right here, but I always run into people talking next to the showers, and they're like, "Hey, you're the guy that helped me with this," and "Oh, hey, you're the guy that did this for me." Like they've never met each other before, but now they're friends, and they're talking stories. And by Saturday afternoon, when you go there Thursday, people don't really like congregate together, but by Saturday night, all these people are sitting inside a big pavilion. I think I don't know, it's 60 foot by something. It's huge now. And they're all just BSing and talking. On Saturday night, we have to calm them down. The rest of the time, they're all kind of like, oh, okay, oh, hey, nice person, nice person. But by Saturday, it's, oh my God, you were right. We went down that trail. That trail was amazing. You were 100%. And it just turns into this like real authentic community feel. And we've talked about this numerous times at Jambo, where, you spend all year doing this and you're exhausted. And there's some days you look at each other and you go, just listen, I'm telling you what we need to do. And then that Saturday night, when you see everyone out there, sometimes you just kind of get like shocked by it and emotionally stopped in your feet. And you're like, holy crap, we did it. We did a
Huge
thing.
event.
It's really authentic for us. It has a lot of us wanting to do it every year just because of those moments where we stop at the end and go, holy crap, we can do bigger. We can go big. What else are we going to do? How are we going to make this even funner the next year? And I think we talked about this too, Jay. Like that's literally what I think drives our events so well, is when we sit there and we look out in the audience of people, just the kids playing, like at the Eclipse. It was a small event together, and you're not going to have another Eclipse for a long time, but still a lot of the people that got together for that were people that go to the Ramble or they go to the Jamboree. They go to these events, so they all know each other and they're all chatting with each other. Our families are playing, their kids are playing. I'm like, this is that moment. This is what I do this for, so that I can make sure that everyone around me is just as happy as I am. It's key, man.
Right.
It's that's small scale. I mean, that was, what, 50 rigs
50,
at most?
yeah.
No, we'll say like
50 people.
30 to 40, 50 people. But, over the course of the weekend, you just saw people that had never met each other, people from Washington, all over the country that came in for this. And, everybody made great friends out of it, absolutely everybody.
And that's
it was definitely one of those real slow, authentic buildups of like a community just gravitating towards each other. And then it all kind of climaxed with us at the top of the ridge line, watching the eclipse and everyone looking over at each other like, this was amazing. This was so, and that's what you build these small events or big events for, is like, there's a reason and a purpose behind them, right? Whether it's donating to a charity like Women Rock, or you guys doing Live Like Lash, or just us getting together to look at the eclipse. These moments that we get to cherish and say and look back, holy crap, look what we were able to do. This was cool.
100%.
Right. And that's been my experience at every event too, is like, even as big as people are in the space, like you meet so many people and like, this guy knows that guy knows that guy. Like I met Jay based off somebody running into him at work that led me to meeting you. And just like, everybody's like, it's like this really huge extended family, even though you think it's such a big deal. Like, it's like, at the end of the day, this is John and this is, Steven. Yeah. And like, you'll meet these people, like, and they're real people and they're real cool. And it is awesome.
Donovan and I always joke about it. I was overseas with Donovan, and then we don't hang out with each other much anymore because he's still overseas and I'm stateside. But he comes to Jambo every year as one of our media monkeys. And we always joke about it. We get to see each other once a year, and we're like, are we just going to, that mindset, is it just going to be the same as it was? You haven't seen someone in a year, but every year it's the same. As soon as he shows up, I'm like, bro, are you ready? We're doing it. And we just get through it, man. It's like you've never left each other. It's like last year didn't end and you're just back at it. Those are the real moments, right?
Right.
Back in the element.
And one thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to let you both can kind of organically talk about this, but like, I feel like some of these big events don't get enough credit. Like, this doesn't have, Jay did not organize this event. Bobbo did not organize this event. This is a huge congregation of people putting on a huge event, guys. So when we're talking about this, I really, I want everybody to go look these events up. You're going to have a history on YouTube and Instagram of these events. Go look at them. These aren't cars and coffee where you can camp there. Okay, so like, what's it take? Like, what's a team? Like, you brought up your friend Donovan coming from overseas to do media. Like, in total, and both of you guys go ahead with it. Like, what are we looking at help wise? Like, I know that Jay's got a board of people in his, but like, there's volunteers galore too. Like, I know, like, when we talk about like music festivals and stuff, not that this is Coachella by any means, but like, it's similar in a sense with like, you got people running things. You know what I mean?
You want to take this first, Jay?
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as like our board, let's say, which would be, your voting body that helps make, we'll say, primary decisions on it, we probably have a little over a dozen people that are on that. And then as far as setup, I mean, we're not a monstrous event by any stretch of the imagination. We're probably 150 to 200 people is what we'll end up with this year. And that's, success. I mean, that's dang near packing the park out.
Yeah.
But, as far as like volunteers, we'll even say like sponsors, everything. I mean, Bobby and I were talking about this not long ago, that you're going to piss people off if you try and start naming people.
That's why I said, go ahead, go first, bud. You're going to screw it up. Because I'll be honest.
Me first.
I'm literally, while he's saying all this, I'm looking for my list of volunteers.
Yeah, it's probably huge though. Like,
I mean, same with like Jay's situation. We have about a dozen that are in the committee, in the staff, right? Between, and I'll screw this all up, but I'm going to try it, right? Between Chris, Matt, and myself running the committee, we have Stephen, Colleen, Andrew, Taylor, and then John Agnar sometimes comes in. And then there's also the extras that have slowly gravitated into us more, which is Carol, my wife, Chris's wife, and other spouses. But then that doesn't even start to hit on the number of people who have come and gone from Jambo, who used to be in, and then our media crew, which is Ian, Donovan, Kevin, Mike Curtis, and Megan. Then you have the volunteers that show up every year, which I feel like is somewhere between 50 and 100. I have no idea how many people literally volunteer at Jambo, because they'll come in for a shift for 2 hours and then leave and then so on. And we sit here as a group constantly like juggling who's doing what and who's doing this. And now we have, that's how it used to be big time. Now we have kind of our roles and our flow chart for what we are doing. And I swear to you, if it wasn't for Chris, we wouldn't have these things. And sometimes we would just be like, I have no idea what's going on. But with Matt that does logistics, myself doing a lot of the communications and marketing, and then Chris doing the everything, we have so many roles between all of us. And I kind of thought about this the other night. Stephen and Taylor, a lot of times will get on the microphone with me and help with the raffle. But Steven also does volunteer. Taylor does safety for events. And you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many different roles that we have that I just don't know why or how we were able to get so many people who still, put this much effort into it. Like, I don't know what Chris did to our drinks, but he did something. And for some reason, we have so many great volunteers that are helping make this happen.
Well, yeah, these events, they don't happen without them.
No, it doesn't. And I don't know why I think about it more and more. I'm like, how in the heck do we do this every year? I'm like, I don't know how it just comes off so well. If we were getting paid, I'd be like, well, yeah, because so-and-so did their job and so-and-so did their job. But, it's different. It's more like so-and-so stepped up because this fell through and then took care of that. And the next thing you know, it just keeps working. It's a well-oiled machine of accidents.
Like, none of the TLC events anybody gets paid, but like the people that you're seeing putting this on, that are promoting it, doing everything with it, they're working a full 40+ hour work week, and then on top of that, they're putting in the same on the back end, making sure, shirts get ordered. Are these sponsors getting credit? What are the tickets sold? Did the sale actually go through? Do we need to contact them? What's going on there? Did these people get their camping passes? Did they not? Do we, have a map of where everybody's at?
How many times have you gotten a message, Jay, from somebody at like midnight, and then you went, "Oh crap, we really got to take care of that"? Because that happens so many times. Weeks before Jambo, someone is staying up late working on something, and they just go, "Oh my god, did so and so do this?" And then you wake up in the morning going, "Ah, what?
We're not quite in so much crunch yet, so we can circle back on that here in like 2-3 weeks once we're getting down into crunch. But we have multiple group texts, that are going off at all hours of the night. Like so and so pledged this. This is what we got. Do we have a final design on this? What's going on here? And it's constant.
We have an ongoing joke about last year's event because Chris showed up with 4 lamination machines, 600 paper mats, and all the material to laminate them. And he looked at me and he goes, "Hey, so I know you brought your wife this year. Is there any way she could, I don't know, sit in one of the cabins and do this all day today?" And I looked at him and I said, "All day today or all week?" I kid you not, it took her over 2 days to laminate all these maps. And I came in there and it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen because it wasn't like that moment on Lucy where she's stumbling through everything, but it literally looked like my wife in here. "All right, grab this, laminate. All right, that's done. I was just like a machine just going to town, and it still took her 2 days to do this. So Chris has this ongoing joke he's been saying all year. "Hey, is your wife coming to laminate this year?" And every time, if he knows my headset isn't on and she can hear me, every time I'll hear her go, "Nope."
That's a no for me, dog. Yeah.
And it's just what happens because, we get a last minute, "Hey, I need a schedule change." And Chris was like, "I was supposed to send these off to get laminated yesterday. I can't do that now." But they're like, "Man, I really need this." And then we have to do it. It's like, who's going to get stuck with that duty? But I think this year, because of that, we're just going to print twice as many maps for the same cost that it would be for the lamination. And if they get wet, get another map. Throw it away. Use it for kindling tonight at the fire.
Try it out by the fire. Use it tomorrow.
And also, these events are put on by these groups. So we're talking about these are Toyota Land Cruiser of America groups. This is essentially a Texas chapter and an Arkansas chapter. And this
PTR, man.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too off topic, but like that's something that's an all year type of thing for people that live in these areas. So you can get involved. These are literal clubs. You can get admission to these clubs through Toyota Land Cruisers of America and get a local chapter, to where you live. They have them in all 50 states, correct?
Not quite. There's a registry of them. I think, and I'm going to butcher this, but I think there's somewhere in the realm of like 30 different chapters out there.
Okay, that sounds about right.
You're able to, be just a TLCA member. You can sign up for that, but then, there's local chapters. So like us in particular, let's say, I had a guy message in that's registering. He's from Tennessee. But then one of our long-standing members, we're talking, I think around 20 years for Andrew. He did live up here, but now he's in Faulkner, Mississippi. And, he's still part of the club and, does this every year with them.
And I know specifically because I'm so close to the Arkansas group of guys. You guys just had a couple events and like everybody's talking about how awesome it is. I'm in Missouri in the land of nothing. So there's nothing for me. So I live vicariously through most people here as far as community.
You got Tornado Alley, man. Tornado Alley Cruisers is up in Missouri.
Where's that out of?
I believe it's in like the St. Louis area, if I'm not mistaken.
That's pretty close to me then. So that's cool. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up because like, although these events are awesome too, like you guys have other stuff going on with these events. Like Jay said, you guys still have full-time jobs. You've got prepping for the event. You've got cleaning up all the event. It's a lot. Well, and the vendors are cleaning up and everybody's cleaning up. There's a lot that goes into it, really.
Yep, Craig just said Kansas City.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate you.
I used to have to drive from Maryland to do our event every year because I knew Chris because I started just doing media with the event. So every year I'd drive. It's about 24 hours straight to get there, and then I would crash at someone's house, show up at the park, and be like, "Why are we doing this again?" But now I'm in Alabama, and I'm starting to meet a bunch of the guys out here in Alabama, and I'm hoping to go to Mardi Gras. I believe is at Hawk Pride. I'm going to screw that up. It might not be Mardi Gras, but I know they have an event at Hawk Pride in October timeframe that I'm going to go to and bring the media truck to and take photos and video and kind of do exactly what Jay's talking about, bridge those gaps between the different groups, right? I mean, that was the whole reason I brought it out there to Arkansas to begin with is, you know, we're looking at this from a perspective of we spent a lot of years building our event to be more than just an off-roading event to where we can go around like our recovery team, the Jambo recovery team can go to different events and help with recoveries because not all events have people on standby to do recovery. We have 4 or 6 people like always on standby. And then we have, I don't know, another 6 or 12 trail leaders that come around to help with the same thing. So we have that assistance, right? We also have a comms box that we can just put in the back of a truck and drive to another event so we can have comms at the event. We're trying to build it to where if someone else is having an event, we can help make that event safer, better, you know, doing all of that good stuff for the other hosts that are doing this. Because the more that happens and the bigger that it gets, the more that the community grows. And the more the community grows, the more that they invest into our events and the bigger our events grows. It's just like this trickle down effect. You just got to keep giving back to show more progress as it goes on. So,
well, yeah, that's absolutely my experience as well. You know, I started off, I've been doing this alone forever. And I started going to a few events, and now I'm part of, you know, about 5 different group chats of guys that just pop off with all kinds of stuff. And we all live all over the place, like all over Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas. I'm in Missouri, like all over. And we all met at these events, and we'll even meet up and go together at times.
You know?
That's one of my favorite things. Like I always chat in the Discord that we have for Jambo, and I'm like, hey, have any of you guys started the convoy conversation? And it happens where you'll have people that say, oh yeah, we're meeting up at such and such and that before, or we're going here, or we're all going to show up at exactly 1 p.m. And I mean, you know, that just shows more people bridging communications between each other and growing the community, not just at the event, but outside of the event, like you're getting at, right? I can go somewhere now and they'd be like, oh, hey, Fish, come hang out with us for a few hours. And there's more than just me running into a random person. It's a whole community I keep running into. And I prefer that because there's always more fun to get in trouble in 3s or more.
Right. Well, and there's a better likelihood of getting out of a bad situation with 3 or more as well. Actually, that's a big deal too. For sure, for recovery purposes.
Never wheel alone.
Nope.
That's my key there.
Hot Springs actually has they have a facility rule that you're not allowed to wheel alone after dark. But they keep the trails open until like 11. And I mean, we tested that out just at the Eclipse event. I mean, first day we sunk a ship in a 5-star mud hole on accident.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the rules are there for a reason. And I did confirm that Mardi Gras is the one that's September 12th to the 15th. And that one's by the Louisiana Cruisers, actually.
Yeah. That's at Hawk Pride, right?
Yeah, that's at Hawk Pride.
Yeah. I'm excited about that because I don't have to drive 9 hours to get there, and I don't have to work it. I can just hang out.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
That's the same reason I'm excited about Razorback Ramble. We've all talked about it. The Jambo crew is going to try going up there and just hanging out and enjoying an event from the other side. I'm curious how many of us are going to heckle you guys during your event.
All of them. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because, I mean, you know, we don't have to work that one. And I'm assuming y'all are going to do the same. You're going to show up to our event and just be like, you're taking too long. You know, just holler at us. It'll be fun, man.
No, it's perfect. And you guys all work together, too. Like, as far as these 2 events are concerned, like, I have them both on because you guys, like, not work together, but, like, you guys are essentially a relationship within different groups as well. Like you said, you're going to go and just enjoy the event, but that doesn't mean you guys are also aren't talking, with Razorback Land Cruisers and vice versa about like how things go and what's going on and how so that's also one thing that I came to find out since Jay's been more involved, right? Like this is all new for me. And I think that is freaking sweet is not even the right word. Because now you got like a network of events that all kind of talk to each other. And that is super cool.
Because you're trying to grow each other. And then if Jay has questions, he can ask me. Or if I'm like, hey, we're like with registration, I'm stupid. Let's put it this way. And I'm all, what am I supposed to put down here? What did Chris say we're paying for? What do we do? And he's just messaging me back and forth, trying to get everything situated. But we can also just kind of shoot from the hip and ask, hey, are you guys doing this? And how did y'all handle this problem? And those are the kind of things I want us to like grow more with events because, we sit around on teams, no joke, for hours on Wednesdays before the event, talking out problems, talking out issues, and trying to figure this out. And we're trying to build SOPs so that we can just say, hey, this is standing operating procedure for something of this nature. This is what you're going to do, and this is who you're going to talk to, and this is how it should come out. If something deviates from that, we'll have to add this to the list of problems down the line. And I think the more we learn these things, the more we could just back and forth with these guys when we go to their event. Hey, did this happen to you? And how do you deal with this? And that just makes the events run smoother. It doesn't help so much like grow the events as making them efficient. But the more efficient they are, the less trouble people run into at the events, the smoother it gets, the happier they are, the more people show up. So
right.
like I said, a trickle effect. It keeps working that way.
Perfect.
I mean, I'm looking at a list of 17, 18 different TLCA events. I mean, how cool would it be to have pretty much every single one of them on Jedi Mind Link?
Yeah, well, that exactly. But that's a lot closer than. So I'm going to go off topic here. Well, not off topic; it's on topic. But I'm going to talk about a different brand of vehicle. So up here in Missouri, my wheeling experience is lots of Jeeps. Jeeps are everywhere, and well, my truck still runs, so we got that. We'll just leave it at that. Whatever. There's no death wobble occurring with the Toyota. What's that again? Anyways, but there's a lot of Jeeps, and I have done a lot of stuff with Jeeps. But even though there's all these Jeep clubs, they're like really independent. Like a lot of times, like Easter Jeep Safari is like a huge event, and everybody knows about it. But like, I don't even know who puts that on or what that really even is. And then there's Jeep Beach, in May or March or whatever. Like these events don't talk. So that's why I wanted to also talk about, again, like Toyota's even doing something bigger, right? Like with these groups, Toyota's doing a lot of things. And I wanted to also talk just to you, Jambo Bobby. These are both Toyota-based events, but Toyota's also involved as a manufacturer, correct?
So this is really neat. In 2016, I'm going to butcher this name, so I should look it up first, but it's Toyota Motors North America, I believe, is the division that came out to release the Tacoma in 2016. And now this year, they're doing the same thing with the 6th Gen 4Runner. And as they put it, the lineup. I am so shocked by this, not because of, oh, wow, Toyota's bringing it out, but they came last year and checked out the event. And afterwards, in their heads, they went, yeah, this is the kind of event we want to first publicly put this vehicle out there. And that speaks volumes on the amount of work that our team has put together. And I say our team because I will admit I am a fraction of the amount of work that puts all this together. The logistics that goes behind this is insane. And to get Toyota to high five us and say, here we are with our 6th Gen, that's huge, man. And then on top of that, we get to see the 6th Gen, my guy. That's cool. Yeah, well, we get to see it, touch it.
That's awesome. That's very, very few people at this point in time have put a hand on that. In 2 weeks from now, that'll be 1,000 people.
I'm going to have to ask, I'm sure, but I do want to touch that damn thing.
I'm sure you guys will be able to go all over it.
SNL.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you guys will be able to go all over it. It'll be a media vehicle 100%. Guaranteed.
We're excited to literally just have it out there. More or less the fact that, we're going to take pictures. Our whole media crew is going to get all excited and take photos and videos. And then, they're going to do their little, hey, check it out. This is I say their big announcement of the truck. And we're going to get to just stand there and gawk in awe at the fact that this is happening with us as a Toyota group, as all of our hard work, it brings us joy. Like our baby has come and grown up. It's amazing. And she's 18 now. So it's really cool.
And I see Toyota leaning in. I do the overlanding thing more than just the wheeling, but I see Toyota like leaning into our communities. Like honestly, like Toyota and Lexus both even. There's the new GX 550 Overtrail, which is essentially the US version of, your center and rear locked Land Cruiser essentially. But I think Toyota's putting a lot into it too, which is also huge. Like they're putting into these events. So not only are we all part of this community, like the manufacturer wants to be part of the community as well.
They've come out to the event. They bring their own employees. They bring their trucks and they drive them on the trails. I think last year, I kid you not, there was a rollover. It wasn't one of their trucks, but it was somebody who came to Jambo on the trail with the Toyota group. And the Toyota guys from Toyota Corporate literally helped him bring his vehicle back over. It was such a small rollover. It wasn't that big a deal. But the reality is, it's like they get it. They're part of this community. They understand the off-road community. And I don't know, throughout all the years, I've done media for drift. I've done it for drag and played around with autocross and all that. Very rarely do you see a manufacturer and its team of manufacturers and engineers come out to an event and hang out with the people. And that is a huge, honor for us. But at the same time, you're right. Like as a Toyota person, you gain a bigger connection between that corporate entity because it feels more real because they're right there in front of you. And if you have a question for them, they'll answer them as soon as you ask. It's great to see. So it's not the same as most events, like a Jeep event or whatever. Have you ever seen Jeep come out there and hang out with the people while they're off-roading? But I've seen it with Toyota.
And I've seen it with Toyota. And not only that, there's going to be a bunch of industry leaders in product out there that are going to have a lot of product, and they're going to have a lot of cool Toyotas out there as well. And Toyota also being in on the fact that the aftermarket exists and understanding that. I mean, they're even adding things to the new Tacoma. Like there's like 6 or 7 blanks in that truck, so you can wire up your own stuff. There's aux switches all over the place. I can't wait to hear about the 6th Gen 4Runner, see if it's the same. If they're kind of making it mod ready, that would be phenomenal.
And we have, Dougie's and Tacoma Beast as our title sponsor coming out there Dougie's is a garage. Tacoma Beast is well, they're Tacoma Beast. They're their own like animal of crazy. Right. But you have, like you said, you have different vendors showing up, DeMello, who's been around for so long, and then Icon and all these people that are showing up to this event to really showcase what they can do for these vehicles. And then Toyota's just standing by the side going, wow, this is cool. It's pretty magical, but at the same time, it's going to be a blast.
Well, and they're drinking out of the same cup. I mean, they're right there in it. You know what I mean? And I think that is just I think that's amazing. I drive a Toyota for a number of obvious normal reasons, but the fact that Toyota and the aftermarket are so intermingled that is the best thing ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, to see them hand in hand with us out there on the trails was crazy, dude. That's something that I didn't expect, because when they came in 2016, they released the Tacoma. They had a short window and they were like, hey, we don't have enough time, but thank you for everything you're doing and blah, blah, blah. And we were like, okay, it feels very corporate, but appreciate it. You guys are awesome. But the lady who was doing the marketing for us, she was like, no, really, we don't have the time, but we wanted to make this happen for you guys. And we were honored for that. And now this year, they're like, hey, man, we're coming out full force. Just like last year, we're bringing some people to come hang out and do the event. They have found that this community is fun. The people that come to our events are the same that go to some of these other events. And Toyota is all about it. They see the same thing we do, man. This wholesome off-roading, hanging out, jamming by music. I think this year, like you guys, we got an 80s themed band that's going to be playing Friday night. So it's just going to be a big festival, and then wheeling until you're exhausted during the day, and having them there is yeah, man, that's epic. That's big.
Right. And
Well, I
I'm
think
a
another
big.
thing
Go ahead.
that'll separate us from expos is we actually feed our folks. It's an eating meeting.
Yeah,
and
that's
just
awesome.
part of your ticket on that. You get big old dining tables rowed out. Everybody's going to sit down, have a meal with everybody that you just got off the trail with. You're going to get some folks up there, talk a little smack on the mic.
All right, Jay, from me to you, I saw how big your pavilion is. You've seen how big ours is, right?
I haven't been there. I'm going to find out here in about a week and a half.
All right. When you show up and you see the number of tables we have, I want you to know I hate it. I hate it so much because just like you guys, we got to put them together and tear them down. And for 800 people to sit around, do you know how many tables that is, man?
I think you're talking 1,500 unless you do it in shifts.
Oh my God. I remember one year I was getting so frustrated because nobody wants to put the tables out. That just is what it is. It's the worst part about it. And then you got to set all the chairs out. It's the worst thing. You got to line them up and everything. But the biggest thing is you got to unstack them and fold the legs out and put them in place and unstack them.
Mm-hmm.
I was standing around doing some of the media stuff and setting up the speakers and running wires. And I kept noticing nobody is setting up the tables. And it was like Wednesday night. And I'm like, guys, they have to be up before tomorrow. Nobody was doing it. And I just got so frustrated. And I was like, you know what? How bad could it be? And I want to say it's I don't know, it's a couple hundred, it's few hundreds tables. I just started going out there one by one doing them. And I got about a third of the way done. And next thing you know, everyone is just standing around staring at each other like, we all have to do this now, don't we? And then everybody dove in and we got them done real quick. And they were just like, why did you do that? And I was like, because it has to get done.
Right.
But it's so many tables and chairs. Like all of this stuff is when you start thinking about scalable and how big it gets, and every year it's always more tables, always more chairs, always a bigger canopy. It just starts to get into your head where you're like, do we have enough time? We didn't have enough time last year. How are we going to do it this year?
And one thing I wanted to ask both of you guys is obviously with the cough thing happening when that thing happened when it did, you know what I'm talking about. What that do to these communities and what that do as far as growing the events?
So, I mean, as far as
I know where you're
COVID.
No, not that. A different thing.
No. Well, the cough thing.
That thing.
I mean, as far as like, the Razorback Land Cruisers, I mean, it kind of just made it go slightly dormant for a while, and that's why now that things have kind of, we'll say, regressed back into the new normal, which is honestly just as normal as it was before. It's getting that revitalization, getting back out there, letting people know that we're still there. Because, I mean, it shut down a lot of stuff for a little while.
we were under the impression that things wouldn't happen again because in 20 it didn't, and then 21 people showed up and we were like, oh, so it's no different, and everyone was like, no man, we're cool. But it's funny that we've transitioned now 3 years away from it and it feels like it never occurred because we're an outside event. There's so many people that know, hey, look, if I need hand sanitizer, I need hand sanitizer. It is what it is. But at the same time, you never see people afraid of each other at these events. And you're in the middle of the day outside in the sun. So I don't know if anyone knows the physics behind that. Most bacteria doesn't last in the sun because of UV rays and all that good jazz. So it shouldn't be a concern. I think the only problem is if you are sick, please don't come. Stay home, relax, get some liquids in you, take a nap, do what you got to do. But at the same time, I don't think anything could stop me from missing Jambo.
Well, and that was
if I had to wear a bubble, I would wear a bubble.
I just was curious with everybody being home for that amount of time, consuming so much freaking YouTube about the hobby, if the following year just like exploded because there was so much more information out there than there had previously been.
And we also opened our doors to people who want to just overland and just come to park and camp, and not necessarily go down the trails and go crazy, but just hang out and enjoy the event. So I think that helped us too, because we tried to just step open the market to people who really just like to hang out. And we have
Right.
enough events throughout the day that we're blessed to be able to do that. So it's a different mindset, I think, because I know pre-candid coffage, we always had everyone was about wheeling. It's like nobody was about being up at the pavilion, and then except for dinner and hanging out with the vendors that they knew, right? And then you kind of had these frustrations where you're like, hey guys, there's a new vendor over here, there's a new this, but we were also much smaller, and people were very tight niched back then. And every year, though, we've been growing. I think a quarter of the people that show up are new people every year. So if you think about that, you have people who didn't know about Jambo last year. So when we're telling them we have costume contests and all this stuff going on, they're like, oh, wow, every year it's like this. And I'm like, well, technically every year we add a little thing. So next year something new will be there, hopefully, if we have time in the schedule. But yeah, we kind of grow it bigger and bigger. So that's what people are starting to get accustomed to. And we've just changed a little bit every year, never drastically remodeled, except for how we set the canopy out because it got too big. But so it's just allowed us to make marginal gains and marginal adjustments to it and keep us from really getting hammered with those problems.
Right.
How many years have you been doing this, Jambo Bobby?
9-ish, I think. Chris called me back in I want to say it's Jambo 10. So yeah, 8-9 years I've been doing this with him. And he called me back then and was like, dude, you have got to bring your camera. People need to see what this is. So I showed up, and I just went around taking pictures, and he let me just do whatever I want to. And then I was like, man, you know what you should do? He's like, what? And I gave him some ideas, and he's like, those are stupid. Shut up. And I'm like, yes, sir. And then over the years, I got used to being told those are stupid and shut up, that now I'm just like, hey, I got a stupid idea. And he's like, let me hear it. And I tell him, he goes, wait a minute, that's an okay one.
That's a good idea. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, because
so I don't know if that's good or bad.
I know that Jay is in Arkansas, and I do a lot of wheeling, overlanding, whatever. I do a lot in Arkansas, and I know it's grown there like crazy. Like it's really grown there a lot.
Yeah.
And Jay goes out. I mean, how often do you go out, Jay? I mean, weekly.
Probably like twice a month. Honestly, I know last week you were saying weekly, but usually about twice a month.
I was just basing that off of how often you've been going out.
So yeah, I mean, spring and fall, it's usually a little bit heavier. But in the summer, like July, August here in Arkansas, there ain't a chance in hell.
I don't get to wheel as much as everyone else, and I kind of make jokes about it. But if you put me down a trail with you, I'll be fine. My thing, I rather sit behind the camera. I like taking photos. I like even at the eclipse, everyone was like, let's do this. And I'm like, I am definitely going to be prepped for that eclipse. I want to get shots of that because that's what I love about it, is capturing the moments that happen.
And I actually talked on that on another podcast. I talked about, this is more or less something that I just said I'd get into because I've been overlanding for so long. I was like, I have a lot to teach and whatnot. But I said that to somebody else. I was like, almost doing this podcast and doing social media and doing video, this is a whole nother hobby. Like
100%.
A lot of people, so I'm into it because I like the overlanding and the off-roading, but there are a lot of people like yourself that prefer the videography of the outdoors. And this is the vessel to get them to that. And I think that's also a huge thing. I just talked about, people getting into it because they're going to be, digital nomads due to Starlink. And then you got a bunch of photographers that do it and then naturally get into YouTube because I mean, why not?
Progression, right?
Yeah.
And our goals, Chris and I talk about this a lot. So I went to school with Chris years ago, and we've always talked, different stupid hobbies and interests we have. And he's pretty much the guy who taught me a lot of my media stuff. If I ever had a question, because he went to school for it, I went to school to teach painting. I kid you not. But then I joined the Army and I do a whole different thing now. So I would, over the years, I'd message him and be like, hey, man, how do you do this in Photoshop? Or how do you do this? And he would just give me all these tips. And then after a while, it turned into people were paying me to show up to events or paying me to travel with them. Or I was shooting for everythingdrift.com, which is, and that at the time was one of the biggest drift websites out there globally. And I didn't even realize that it had turned into that. But I was like, I just like it. I'm sorry. And then everyone's like, well, you need to keep showing up to these events. So when I got into the off-road community, I had a Scion XB that I ended up the second or third time I was at Jambo. I lifted it 2 inches. I put some big tires on it, some 10 mil spacers on it, a roof rack. And I went driving around in what we called the struggle bus. And I had a blast. And then people would let me drive their trucks. They're like, this guy knows what he's doing. And I'm like, I don't, but okay.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
And then being on the media side of different recoveries, over the years, I learned how to use a snatch block. I learned how to, set up a winch properly. I learned all these things just by watching, John and Steven and all these guys do recovery so well in front of me. And I'm like, I think I know how to off-road. So every now and then when I go to Jambo, I'll rent like a 4Runner or something back in the day, and I'll drive down the trail. And I mean, I never did that. No, never did that. And I would enjoy a rental off-road. But then I got my own FJ, and I'm like, somehow, like you're saying, you just kind of transitioned into this. And the next thing you know, I think Chris and I have talked over the years how we want to do Jambo and what we want to get to. And I think right now our goal is to get to the ability to, after Jambo, have time for us to record ourselves and go down trails and blaze new trails or check out parks that we've never seen, and get the chance to broadcast it and show the world how fun off-roading is with the minimal amount of stuff necessary, right? Or we'll die, and then people will come across our bodies and be like, they got some good footage.
Well, they'll write a book about it and you'll just be more famous. Yeah, that's how that works. I'll write it, we're good. So
you join the Jambo recovery team whenever they're out at other events.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, I think that's I struggle with the fact that I've done this hobby for 16, 18 years. And I talk about it often on here. Like, I just am not much of a media guy. I just suck at it. But quite frankly, like, all of the media people that got into it just look so much cooler. Like, it's such an interesting thing to me that, when I started doing this, the iPhone didn't exist. Like, didn't even exist yet.
I don't even want to admit to the fact that I know media is going to be a dying thing, because I'm still going to hold on to, the iPhone is going to kill people like me from doing this business, because the iPhone and Samsung and even like my DSLR, it's not a DSLR anymore. It's a mirrorless, right? So it's not the same as it used to be. And that mirrorless, man, it has such diversity that I can literally set up my settings in it and then just run different custom modes. And I go, oh, hey, it's close to this time of day. Set that mode up. And then just blah, 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 blah. Take my photos. And then I go back and look later and I go, nailed it. And even if I didn't, the dynamic range of modern cameras, I just go into Lightroom and I adjust the brightness or the shadows, and I'm nailed. And I'm so sad about it, because I did this for drift with a DSLR, the Canon Mark II or Mark I and the 5D Mark II back in the day. And I had to work hard to get those shots. And then Photoshop didn't have all these new features of just, hey, I don't like that tree there, deleted. And you didn't have that back then.
And I think you talk about media dying. I think that and I may be way off base in how I come about this, but I think media is so much more editing / filmmaking.
Well, I think composition is going to go away, where I think what you'll have is somebody will pay for this camera that knows to get the right angles. They'll buy this AI driven stabilizer that gets the perfect angle for you all the time. And then you just tell it what mood you want the shot to be, and it'll give you that mood.
So
Because
kind of like when the gimbal came out, like
yeah, the
something
gimbal
like
made
that.
it easy. As a matter of
Right.
fact, we used the gimbal at the Eclipse, and we
Yeah.
didn't have a DSLR, but I have a DSLR gimbal. So Jay grabbed a GoPro, put it on there, and the GoPro's too light for it. So I just grabbed a random rock and duct taped it to it, and it just stabilized.
It'll
and
work.
got video.
Yeah, I mean it works.
It blew my mind on the shots because that was the first time I ever used one.
It's smooth.
Oh, dude, they're so cool, Jay.
Smooth. I have a whole
They're so
shoulder
cool.
rig, but if you got the time, just pull out the DSLR gimbal. Just let it do its work. Run around with it like a crazy person, and that shot just stays perfect. It's very strange, and that's what I'm getting at is once you get into the AI-driven side of it, to be able to say, okay, not only is it gimbaled, but now make the shot line up just like this, and then do this kind of tilt on this specific lens, and it'll be more dramatic this way, or it'll be happier, or it'll be sadder. You know, it'll do all that work for you, so the person will just say, I want it to be this exciting, or I want it to be this kind of mood. And then they'll just let the video do it, and then they'll upload that to the internet and put the song of that mood, and it's done. And we'll all just go, hey, 5 more seconds of my life gone. Next video. 5 more seconds.
I think the reliability, like I think what I've noticed is you may be 100% correct and probably
wrong.
100%.
Or
I don't know. But I think the reliability, even more recently, as you see people push further into the backcountry with like drones, there's a lot of restrictions on drones now, and they break a lot. I see a lot more people. Like I think it got to a point, and now I think drones have digressed to some extent due to regulations and equipment failures.
That's always our concern at Jambo, and we even ask during the events or over the pavilion where there's hundreds of people and expensive vehicles, please, you cannot fly there because we don't want anyone hurt. We don't want, because here's the thing, a lot of people don't know if they're flying their drone and they're taking that footage and they upload it to the internet and they want to make $1 off of it, you have to have a license. Because if you hurt somebody because the drone decided I don't have signal because there's a power line right there, I'm shooting straight to the ground, that sucks, man, because now we have to hold you accountable. And I don't want to have to do that. I'd rather it just be watch the footage afterwards and share the footage and show people what was there. Because we have a bunch of vendors that come out that a couple of them have drone licenses, and we work with them with our drone pilot who has his license, and we have them organize what altitude to be at, for how long, when they're going to land, who's landing first. There's a whole procedure you have to do, like a runway. And then once we're done with that, there's no real air traffic controller. It's just the guys stand with each other. But when you're done, the next guy can put up his, or he can lawyer with his. And then if there's any problems, they already know the procedures to take care of it. And then they have a license, so it's no concern for us. And they share their videos amongst each other and with Jambo, so we can have a lot of footage to showcase to everyone so they can see it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was even gonna say too. Like it's also, can I buy a drone? Yeah, and can I work a remote control car? Yeah. Could I probably make it work? I'd say potentially I could, and that's exactly what my drone would sound like, actually.
And then
as it hits everything, But yeah, it's way more involved with licensing and everything else. Ham radios are the same. Like anybody could buy it, but you're really not supposed to use it without some training. And I think
we do that at Jambo. I say training. We don't necessarily have ham radio training at all, but we do have a guy who's got his license and he's taking care of all the repeaters and the different radios. And then we have our own GMRS license for the event. And I mean, like, we go through all these logistics to make sure that there's no concern. And then we have a plan for it. And if you want your radio to be set up for our plan, I think Andrew's going to do, I'd have to look at my schedule on what days he's going to do it. I know Thursday he's going to do it. You can just go over to him and he'll say, what model do you have? And he'll have that downloaded model already ready to go. And then he can upload into your system what the programs are. And then you can walk away and go, hey, I'm on those channels.
And you're on the repeaters and you're going to have great comms.
Because that's the issue, right? When you have a park that's 1,800 acres across a ridge line with all these valleys in between, you can't just have one radio. you go into everyone. You have to have a repeater. You have to. It just is what it is to get down into the valleys on the other side of one of the peaks. So the logistics of radios. I mean, Andrew's great. He's taking care of that. But that's one of those things. You have a person for every section of it at the event so that you can logistically manage it.
And that's a huge part. That's a huge part of off-roading, overlanding, anything is communication. I mean, that's enormous. That's huge, huge, huge.
Yeah, especially, we have a paramedic on standby. So if anybody has a problem and they hit up the emergency channel, the paramedic is literally just waiting for something, and he'll take off in a vehicle, or he'll say, "Hey, recovery team, we're going down this trail. I don't know where that is," and they'll drive him straight to it. Yeah. Handheld units as well. Eric asked if they apply to handhelds. Technically, it depends if you have like one of those Bofengs that can be programmed, right? We have a bunch of different connectors for some of the handhelds that can be programmed. So.
Yeah, and just from my experience, Eric, if it's a two-way, then no. But if it's GMRS or better, like a Baofeng or a handheld or a GMRS handheld, I would assume if they have an expert there in communications, they will be able to help you in that capacity.
I think both my radios are in my truck, so I can't really show you.
Mine are too, and there's some. Yeah, for sure. But that's a great question, Eric, and I'm happy that you're on here to ask that. That's exactly what I wanted to kind of occur here, is if anybody had anything like that.
I see Gallant made a comment about how his drone just dropped out of the sky. See, that's
Black Bear Pass. Exactly.
People are always like, "Why are y'all so strict about it?" I don't know. Have you ever been hit in the head by a drone? Because I got cut in my arm one year because a guy was driving it way too fast by me. And I lifted my arm up to keep it from hitting my face, and it cut my arm up.
Well,
and I literally had to have it. Yeah, they go straight to home. That's what his was.
Correct, and fast. I mean, yeah.
That was I want to say that was like 2018 or something like that. I had a scar on my arm for a good year after that. The next Jambo I came by, and I remember it was still there, and someone was like, "Is that from that drone last year?" I was like, "This is why we say."
Well, then DJI, with the under 250 gram flights, where it doesn't have the restrictions, I mean, they just kind of opened up the floodgates for anybody and their brother to get a drone and crash it to whatever.
That's the fear, and people don't understand the RPMs behind those little bitty blades. They're not fans. They're blades, man. They hurt.
Or just the liability. I mean, I don't know that the TLCA insurance is going to cover that.
Yeah, right. And that's
should be. Yep.
Yeah, I think so too, Eric. I think you'll be solid, brother. Yep. I think they'll have you covered. All right, guys. Well, we're kind of getting to that time where I like to wrap things up. So, any final thoughts from either of you guys? Oh, is that the dog bowl?
Yes, this is the insert for the slow feeder, and it looks like a rim. And then this is the tire edge and the water bowl. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
That is cool.
And it's got little suction cups, so you can put it in the back of your truck, and it'll stick.
Oh, man.
Right? Dude, Barks and Rec. This lady just nailed it. She hit it out of the park. I have so many little things from her.
Too.
Yeah, it is.
A puppy first aid kit. You name it. She nailed it. They have their dog toys. Yeah. No, it's literally a first aid kit, like a legit first aid kit, but it also has like a little water bowl that's collapsible and all this other stuff. And then of course,
strap it to her like
the shackle. You need a shackle for your puppy.
So you can play tug of war. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Dude, the stuff that people come up with as vendors and sponsors at this event, and I tell them all, bring the craziest you got, because I'm telling you, it's fun. That's how we see it. It's going to be fun.
And it's always making something a little more comfortable and convenient for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Go Fast Campers. Like Go Fast Campers. They're extremely convenient if you guys ever hear me talking about you. Anyway,
they just open up. They go fast.
It's fantastic. So fantastic. But anyways, guys, what closing thoughts do you guys got? Talk about your events, and we'll start closing it down.
If you're excited to come to Jambo, know that we're excited to have you. but we're also excited to leave Jambo and go to Razorback so we can sit down and do nothing.
Not nothing. You're gonna go wheeling. Like,
Oh, I'm gonna go
that's
wheeling.
your time to go wheeling.
But I'm not gonna be stuffing all the swag bags. I'm not gonna be taking all the money for the raffle tickets. I'm not doing any of that. That's your job that day.
We might just have to throw you on the mic then.
I'll ramble on forever up there.
Oh, there we go. I mean, as far as like what I've got to go with, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, I hope you come to Ramble. I also hope you go to Jambo. I mean, come to any of the TLCA events that you possibly can, because pretty much all of those are nonprofit events that are supporting a good cause while you're out there having fun, and so you can actually see where that money's going to. And it's not corporate America where you're stuffing somebody's pockets that never is even going to know your name. I mean, you can actually see where that money's going. The staff there isn't making a single dollar off of it. We're doing it because we're wanting to have fun.
And
for the people attending.
Yeah,
right.
Man.
For
It's
the people that are coming.
Yes. Like it is for everybody else at that point.
So, what's everybody's social media? Let's go ahead, Bobbo. What's your social media?
So I think I'm Jambo Bobbo on Instagram, but really go to Toyota Jamboree on Instagram, on Facebook. I think we even have a TikTok now. I don't push that one. I push my Jambo Bobbo on TikTok. Realistically, Toyota Jamboree is on everything. So come check us out. There's the 18th.
And Jay?
So our main social media group is going to be Toyota Trucks of Arkansas. That's where we pretty much broadcast everything. The Razorback Land Cruiser page is a private page, and so that's meant more for people on the roll call as far as that one goes.
Right. I'd also like to pimp Jay's personal Instagram just because it roundhouse kicks everybody else. It's Walker Lexus Ranger, and that is that is the best, guys. He takes the Instagram cake from all of us. So Jesus. Walker Lexus Ranger.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's
right? Like it's so epic. That's just the best name ever. I saw that on the back of his truck the first time we were wheeling, and I was like, "You win, Instagram."
The motorcycle that Chuck Norris rides on in that movie was my uncle's. Just leaving you with that.
That's awesome.
Or in that show, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Say hi.
Say hi, Chloe.
Hi, Chloe.
All right, guys, we're going to hop off. We're going to hop off. I appreciate y'all coming, and I will have this up in podcast form for those of you that came on late or whatever. You'll be able to listen to the whole thing. I'll have it up tonight. On all the major platforms, and I greatly appreciate you guys, and thanks for being here. Later.
Right on.